We arrived here in March when it was much cooler, with the idea of making a project around moving through the landscape and using the materials that my body wore to translate them into painting, hopefully taking both the mental experience of those encounters and the literal sweat and mineral output from my body. I was very interested, and I'm very interested in the question of landscape painting, and if there is a way to make a landscape painting that doesn't privilege the point of view of the eyes, the human eyes, if there is a way to incorporate other senses, the full human body, into the painting itself. So my proposition for these works was to make clothes to run in and experience moving through the landscape around the Loire Valley, and then bring those back to the studio and dye and paint the materials and translate those into painting. The proposition was that the mineral output and the sweat from my body would change the color and make marks on the fabric, as well as dirt and rips and erosions that were engaged with during the runs. This project was only able to be realized because of the length of the residency. Although I had made tests before I came to the Calder, I wasn't able to have either the time or the access to landscape in this way without being here. The landscape of the Loire Valley itself is extremely hilly, but I feel like as a body I was able to move through it and cover very vast distances. I think over the course of the residency I covered about 400 kilometers. And I collected objects along the way and took photographs. So that was the original idea for the project. For the most part, it worked well. I'm not sure if I was able to accumulate enough sweat on any individual textile to fully make significant changes in the marks, but I think the sentiment transferred and the color was shifted a little bit. I arrived at the Calder very interested in using this time to fully experiment with my work and to try new things that I hadn't tried before. And a lot of that, to me, is having the privilege to fail or try something that will lead to another idea, which is not something that I find that the rhythms of everyday life often allow. So even just having the time to ask a big question and to execute this project to the best of my ability was such an incredible gift, and the questions that I'm leaving with will inform many of my next projects. I also worked with clay from the area. One of the first sightseeing trips that myself and my family took was to Angers to see the Apocalypse tapestry, which is an extraordinary work of many panels describing the apocalypse, and it was so influential for me. And I used the clay from this area to mimic feet of the beasts in the tapestry, which now have been incorporated into the paintings themselves. The beasts interested me because I feel like beasts, when thinking about beasts or lions or dragons, there's something that is so extraordinary corporeal about it, and this project felt like I was using the corporeality of my body as well. So in some ways, I felt like I was identifying more with the beasts than with the humans in the tapestry, who were all having this engagement with reaching heaven or God in a way that I think in traditional Christianity has much to do with the mind and the discarding of the body. In some ways, I'd like to do the opposite in these paintings. As well, with the help of Guillaume, cast objects into metal, which I think both become like a visual punctuation in the paintings and more hold the objects that have this incredible sense of time, a rock, a branch, but that we pass by as if they're have lesser significance than they do. I think bringing them and putting all the work, translating them into metal, allows us to focus on those objects of nature that are so ubiquitous when we walk in the woods in the space. And what else? Working in Calder Studio is obviously amazing. It's, I think the imposter syndrome is very strong at first, and then you say, like, how could I possibly make anything? I mean, not only Calder, but all of the artists who have been here. But I think you just have to sweep the floor and start, and then eventually you get used to it. The other thing I really enjoyed about the studio, which at first was a challenge, but there's just so many other creatures living in here, the bugs and butterflies and wasps and bats. And at first I was so nervous, like, oh no, what will it affect the work? But then the whole point of the work and my whole interest in the work is to have this engagement with the landscape. And so this became this very literal way of engaging with the landscape. And I think that the building, Calder Studio, is so porous with the outdoors and the indoors, actually allows for this multi-species engagement in the work. So even though that is not a direct theme in the work, it was a big part of my making of the pieces. Anything else? It was also really wonderful to watch the storms come from the Calder window. I don't know if that went into the work directly, but I enjoyed it very much.